Hello and welcome to this COMP3218 game design and development video from the University of Southampton. We're going to be looking at some more of our students' first courseworks. My name is Tom Blount, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and today I am joined by...
Hi, my name is Callum and I'm one of the demonstrators on the course.
Fab. Callum, can you tell us a little bit about what we asked the students to do for this coursework?
So the two main things for this were to make a game with a clear core dynamic and a nice, well-made tutorial that integrates with the gameplay.
Brilliant. All right, let's jump right into our first game. And our first game is Galactic Lifeline. So, nice little title screen, that's the word. No audio as far as I can tell, but we've got a tutorial, so let's jump straight into it.
It's interesting having the tutorial as a separate option. Oh.
Yeah, it means that it's not necessarily like as fluidly integrated with like the majority of the gameplay, but it also serves as a nice way to let expert players skip straight to the game if they've gone through it before.
True.
Okie doke. So nice little introduction.
Where is the energy cell?
So I think it's that thing in the top right. Okay.
Ah, okay.
Kind of glowy. We've got a little icon. Ooh. Okay, so we've got some sound effects. Bring it back to the ship. No icon. I was about to say no icon for the ship, but there is one.
Oh, so nice.
Ooh, that's quite loud. You can carry more than one at a time, but you lose them when you die. Okie-doke. Oh, it says there's two available, so should I be looking for those?
Maybe.
Okay, if I press space, I think it continues on to the next bit.
Ah, okay. It would be helpful to let the player know that.
Yeah, because...
Can you just fly straight through that space station?
I believe so, yeah. I'm flying above it. I'm flying above it, yeah. I'm not into it.
Yeah, we're in 3D space, that's fine.
As well as how many we're currently holding. There's a timer that shows how long we can last with our current energy. I don't see that timer.
No.
It says ship energy. I assume that's not there because we're in tutorial and they don't want us to just die while we're figuring stuff out. So keep fetching energy cells to keep us alive. Press left shift to activate a shield for 2 seconds. Why would we need a shield? Everything seems perfectly fine, but okay. Here we go. 2-second shield. Ooh.
Oh, what is that?
Interestingly, that didn't progress the tutorial. Still got to press space manually to go through that. It's a one-time use. Oh, okay. So I've just wasted it for no reason. But I can replenish it by going back to the ship. I don't know how to dock the ship. Ah, okay. This is why we need a shield. Ooh. Okay. So black holes, it turns out, draw you in, and quite a lot as well. Don't stray too far from this ship or the drone will lose connection. So I guess that's what the static we saw earlier.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a nice effect. So rather than just letting you drift off into empty space.
Wait, that was the end.
That was the tutorial.
Okay.
So let's jump into the main game.
Oh wow, that is right next to you.
Okay, that's also a bit loud. So give me 2 seconds to just lower that a little bit. There we go. We'll drop that way down.
Still very loud. Oh yeah, there we go. The ship energy level is now changing.
Yeah, ticking down, so... It's still quite loud, isn't it? Let me just drop it down. So we've gone from no music to all of the music. Ooh. Oh, there's some over there. Okay.
Are you doing okay there? You seem to be struggling with the flying.
I think I'm doing all right. Look at how I weaved around those asteroids. The steering's a little tricky, but I think that might just be down to me rather than the controls themselves. So we've got 64 seconds left until the ship explodes. Ah, okay. Ooh. That was a bit of a dramatic transition.
Wow,
there.
that is.
I think that means we're on level 2, I guess. So there's 3 available, and it doesn't show them all at once. It only shows one of them.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But okay. I feel like we move quite fast, and there's quite a lot of asteroids for how far ahead of the ship that I can see.
Hmm.
We're moving to find more cells.
So so far it looks like the starting energy level has increased with each level. Ooh. And we've not been getting very low down on it, so this.
I just chucked one of our energy canisters or whatever it was into the void, so we might get less next time.
Yeah, possible.
Okay, there's one. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I don't know whether they just show the position of the closest energy capsule thing, or whether... Yeah, I'm not sure why they made that decision, but that was... You lost the last energy cell, so it's straight onto the... Okay, so if we lose all of the energy cells, we just go to the next level.
And the ship energy level persists between levels,
Okay.
which wasn't made clear, but that's how that works.
So if
Have you forgotten the button for shields?
I have forgotten the button for shields. It was left shift, wasn't it?
I think so. But yeah, that's another. There we go. That's a sort of good indicator that maybe the tutorial could have done with a bit of. Could have been spread out a bit more. Oh, hey. There we go.
So I didn't lose anything there other than time, because I wasn't carrying one of the energy cells. So although I destroyed my little drone thing,
Ooh.
we're only set back in terms of time. There are definitely a lot of asteroids around this. I wonder if they've got anything in place to make sure that they're not, constantly over the energy cell you're trying to pick up. Because it seemed like when we took off a few times, there was one right at the door, which seemed a little bit...
I'll say they also all seem to be off to the right, which I feel like is
yeah.
It's they've got this quite a large space, and it feels like a bit of a waste to not make use of all of that.
I mean, maybe, although equally, it doesn't matter whether we're on the left side of the ship or the right side of the ship. If there's some rocks and some energy cells floating about, it doesn't hugely matter.
I suppose. Ooh.
Okay, so it looks like we've seen the majority of the gameplay. Let's start going through the mark scheme.
Okay, which I got up. There we go. So the first section is presentation. So that's graphics, audio, and information design.
Okay, so in terms of presentation, it looks quite nice. We've got a nice little background, some nice little ambient audio.
Yeah, I think the sort of the graphical design is pretty consistent.
Yeah, we've got some little audio pings whenever we crash, whenever we pick something up. We've got some very ominous background music. In terms of information design, we've got the number of canisters we're carrying, the number of canisters that are remaining, the number of shield charges we've got, our overall timer. They're all kind of crammed up in that top left, where I'm struggling to look at unless I happen to be flying in that direction.
Ooh. I will say the tokens to guide you around are very important and quite a nice. It's good information design. It exists mainly because you could not possibly indicate that through level design.
No,
it's still very loud. I'm struggling to hear.
I was going to say you might have to turn it down your end, or I might have to share it again with Have a Sound, because it's as down as low as it can go on my end.
Can I? I don't know if I can turn the sound down myself. Either way, yeah, there's definitely parts that I think could have been, parts that I think could have been done better. Like you could, rather than having that, like just the number counting down, you could have, say, an energy bar at the top that shows you the ship energy gradually reducing. And rather than having it just saying, oh, you're holding one canister, it could just have the canisters sort of following the back of your ship.
Ooh, that'd be a nice touch. There's also...
there's a lot of other ways they could have presented this information that would have been potentially easier to understand in the moment.
They also make this like big distinction between like levels. So once you've collected 3 or lost 3 energy cores per sector, there's like a sort of big transition, and you're like new level. But what level are we on right now, do you think? Because I've lost track.
I reckon about 5, but yeah.
And it feels
the transitions are very abrupt.
And in a way, they're kind of unnecessary. Like, the background sort of changes, and our ship snaps back to the dock. But, I mean, they could have just spawned 3 more energy things. So the transition's not, like, a huge issue. I'm just curious about, you know, that's... Effectively, the level is going to be our score, right? Because it's... That's our metric for progression, is how many sectors, if you like, we've cleared. So maybe we only find that when we die, like what our score is. I tell you what, I'm going to float around and... Because the thing is, I can't even accelerate our demise, I just have to wait for that timer to tick out. So I'm going to fly around a little bit and just go sightseeing. But in terms of
I think
the information design that's there...
It's...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think... There's definitely some information that's missing. And then there's... And the stuff that is there, I feel like there are much better ways to do it.
Oh, I don't know about that. I think there's a few bits of polish they could make, but broadly speaking, like, the information design is quite... Like, it's clear what our drone is, it's clear what the asteroids are, it's clear what the black holes are, it's clear what the energy things are, it's clear where the edge of the map is. Like, everything works perfectly fine. We're sort of getting into the bounds of how could they, like, improve it further. But what they've got is, like, you know, it's definitely possible to play the game with the information they're giving us. So,
yeah.
In terms of purely a presentation, like, I think we can definitely say it's at least workable. I'd probably say it's...
definitely agree with that.
And, like, everything is, like, mostly consistent. Like, the asteroids are a little bit more, like, they don't exactly clash with our little ship. Like, there's a slight difference in texture, but overall, I think it's a pretty professional aesthetic they've got going. The main... Jesus, I swear that gets louder every level. Okay. Okay, interesting. So they don't judge our progress on level, they judge our progress on total time alive.
Yeah, interesting. And also how many drones you get lost, I suppose. But yeah, I think with the sort of good level with professional, I think I agree with you that it's definitely at satisfactory, but the issue here is
satisfactory. I think it's probably up at
least at the satisfactory. It doesn't, however, you know, when you died there, the 2 key stats it showed you was how long the ship had been alive in total, and how many ships you lost. And it doesn't show you either of those during the game. And I think that there are some parts of the information that they do display, there are much better ways to show it. So I don't think it's quite... I don't think I would want to put it up at the good level, because there's still a lot of stuff that could be improved.
Yeah, you might be right. In which case, maybe it's between the 2 then.
Yeah. I definitely don't think there's any inconsistencies within it. So yeah, okay. If we put it between the 2. which is what, 60?
So that
Sorry?
brings us on to meaningful play.
Yes, so this is the mechanics, the controls, and the bugs. So, how are the controls?
Well, you know, the steering was a little bit, I don't know, difficult to get to grips with initially, but I feel like I'm getting the hang of it, having played it for a little bit now. Like
I think also, sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, like the amount of like drag that they've got on the ship, and the amount of like momentum that you get as you're going forwards, like obviously unrealistic to space, but it actually feels quite satisfying.
The way I'd sort of interpreted that was not that it was like drag on the ship, just the momentum, which at least watching it looks fairly natural, but obviously playing and watching you get very different feelings out of that. Okay, so
controls wise, yeah, they're fine. They're perfectly workable. They're maybe a little bit twitchy. There's a small amount of extra balance they could have put together. The main thing is, I think, but the main issue is not necessarily just with the steering. It's with the like reaction times of me.
Yeah, you don't get much warning of impending doom.
Like, yeah, you don't have enough warning to change direction. You have enough warning to slam the shift button, but if you've already used your shield for this trip...
See, you say that, but then you managed to swerve around that asteroid pretty well.
Yeah, true.
So I think, it's definitely difficult. I don't know whether it's too difficult.
In terms of mechanics, we've got picking up the energy things, dropping them off. We've got two different kinds of obstacle. I like that one of them is just a rock, and one of them is like the black hole, and it has some other impact rather than it just being cosmetically different. I feel like it would be nice if they'd have done a bit more with that, like different types of obstacle and different things to. Because after you've seen like 5 levels, it doesn't. Other than there just being more rocks, there's not a big change in difficulty. I think
that I would have liked to see the impact of the black hole expanded a bit, because there's not many of them, and they're pretty easy to avoid. So I think it would have been. Sorry, I'm so invested in how you're doing. Whereas, it would have been nice to see them play around with more obstacles, but they've also then got you've got your shield, the whole you difference between like if you having to sort of bank them in the station, or you lose them when you die, ship's energy level. There's definitely
a set of mechanics working together.
Yeah. So, I think. So at the engaging level, it's multiple mechanics, where if you go down to playable, we're on fewer mechanics, and.
It feels like we're beyond that.
Yeah, I think we're at like there is multiple distinct mechanics. I think it's. I think there's a good set.
I think they would maybe need a few more to move beyond that, to sort of where they've got a set of mechanics that sort of like can complement and interact with one another. But the mechanics they've got are like a complete set. So, it's inarguably playable. I'm finding it quite engaging. I can tell that you are as well, even though you're not in the hot seat.
Yes, every time you nearly hit a rock, I have a tiny moment of panic,
which I think is a
good sign. Yeah.
So and I haven't noticed anything in the way of bugs.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. So I think they're solidly in the engaging. To get up to fun, it's there needs to be it requires a higher level of complexity. and I'm not sure we've got to that level. As you said, there's more they could have done with some of the mechanics they have that would have maybe put them up there, or maybe maybe some extra ones they would need.
That's the thing. I don't think there is much more they could have done with the mechanics, which is why I don't think it quite reaches there. They would need to sort of have a few extra bits and pieces, and there's obviously a huge range of directions they could have chosen to go in, just to sort of make it a slightly more complex set. But yeah, solidly engaging.
Yeah. So the next bit is goals, risks, and rewards, and I'll be honest, of the ones I've looked at so far, I think this one has the clearest set of goals, risks, and rewards.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't necessarily think it's particularly high impact.
No,
but
they're definitely there.
It's
very clear what they are.
Absolutely, they've definitely designed the game with that idea in mind of how far out of this static can I go? Never mind.
Oh well.
Do you go and get these things one at a time to try and preserve as many of them as you can, or do you save time, save energy, and go try and pick them all up in one run? I think.
Also, if you have to use a shield charge, is that then now I'm going to go back, or I'm going to risk having to be?
Actually, yeah, that's an excellent point. Can I get around this obstacle without using my shield? If I've used the shield, should I now head back? If I use my shield and I'm not carrying anything, should I just slam myself face first into a rock to recharge?
Yeah.
So yeah, actually,
how much can you control the speed of the ship?
If I had a controller, probably a bit more. But
okay.
I mean, I guess I could sort of tap it and try and navigate a bit more slowly.
Yeah, because I suppose if you can go slower, then you can always take that. It's going to take more time to get back, but you're less likely to have a rock coming out of nowhere and smash you out of the skies. But yeah, I think so. So if we look at satisfactory, that's a coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards, and I think that's definitely there.
Easily there. In fact, a good would be a clear and coherent set, and I think we're probably easily there as well.
To get up to excellent, it would need to be well balanced, and I'm not. Again, as we mentioned before, I'm not sure that the sort of balance of the difficulty and the set of mechanics is quite there. So I'm not sure I'd say it's necessarily a well-balanced set of risks and rewards. Partly just because you've lost a lot of the charges and you've still got well over 3 minutes left on the timer.
Yes.
So it's not that punishing when you do lose some of the energy cells.
Yeah, I think that is a fair comment, and it's possibly something that sort of ties in a bit with the next section as well, which is the overall pacing. But yeah, I think the goals, risks, and rewards, very clear, very coherently put together. It is nice to see a game that has been designed with some explicit risk-reward mechanic in mind.
Yeah.
But as you say, I think it would be nice if it was more punishing to lose those canisters.
Yeah. So that puts them solidly in good.
Yes. Pacing-wise, I am not noticing it getting. Well, it's not getting noticeably more difficult or more tense as we go on. There's some.
The first couple levels, I thought it seemed like it was getting a bit harder, but since then, that might have been just a coincidence. And since then, it seems pretty flat. So
we've got some inherent tension in just there is always a ticking clock, so we do always have to be doing something. But beyond that, the number of obstacles, it may be changing, but I'm not noticing it change. And this is kind of what we were talking about also with the the mechanics and the complexity. We're given everything immediately from the start of the game, and it doesn't evolve beyond that. So we're never given new obstacles to avoid or new ways of avoiding them.
Yeah. I suppose
maybe
it has,
maybe that would
as
be
you mentioned, inherently, as you start to get low on time, the tension increases. But it's not. There's definitely not any. I don't think there's any real attempt at increasing it through the level design or the mechanics.
It's currently balanced in such a way that even a mediocre player such as myself, I'm not really worrying about the time at the moment. And if I want to see the end screen, I would have to sit and wait for, as you say, about 3 minutes. I've just had an interesting idea, actually. If, for example, you could spend these energy cells that you're carrying for extra shield, that would be a much clearer risk versus reward.
That would be pretty cool.
If I'm carrying 3, I can, chuck one of them into the shield to make sure I get the other 2 back, or do I think I can get it back by itself? But yeah, okay. In terms of pacing.
So if we look at, I'm sorry that I have to start this low, but if we look at poor, we have variations in tension, but no coherent pattern over time. And the question is, do you feel that there is much variation in the tension level, or is it just pretty flat? Because to me it looks pretty flat.
Yeah. In terms of just the obstacles and the mechanics and the overall sort of like engagement, and the fact that every level is always 3 canisters. It's not like the first one is 3 and the second one is 4 and the fourth one is 5, or however that sequence ought to go. Other than that, everything is always pretty much the same. We have all the mechanics, we see all the obstacles. As far as I can tell, there's the same number of obstacles per map. It doesn't feel particularly dense. Maybe there's slightly more black holes than there were at the start, but it's not noticeably different. So the pacing almost seems pretty flat, which would put them down at the absent layer. I think because they've got the time mechanic, and we'll talk about this more in the dynamic section, they do have some inherent escalation of stakes as you go on, but it's not to do with sort of their set of mechanics other than the timer.
Yeah, it's not so much that the game is getting harder as you've done a bad job. So I'm not sure I would count that as pacing. So to be honest, I want to put them in the absent level.
I think I would put them above that. I think I would say there are some variations. I think there definitely is a variation in the number of obstacles. It's just not a noticeable escalation in tension. So
okay,
I think it probably fits in poor.
Poor. Okay. Okay, so the next step is talking about the tutorial, which you've already mentioned a couple of times.
So I will let the timer run out on this level and go back and have a look at the tutorial, because I think the tutorial actually works relatively well. So there we go, 780 seconds, a cost of 35 drones.
Drones are free, so so
if we hark back to goals, risks, and rewards, it is a little odd that that's sort of something you're scored on, because it isn't material to how. I mean, I guess if you could go 780 seconds with just losing 1 drone,
that would be impressive.
It would be slightly more impressive, yeah. So I guess they give you that secondary goal. But yes, here we are, tutorial. So we get a...
it's like, I have no problem with games showing stats that are completely meaningless, just a little bit interesting. Saying hey, the most damage you ever did in one go was 40,000 or whatever. Doesn't matter, but it's interesting to know. So
yeah, that's true. Anyway, back to tutorial. So we've got a little support character. He's talking us through the mechanics. It's kind of cute that they've characterized it as a character on your radio rather than just here's an info box. In a way, almost like diegetic tutorial, right? You've got your support character teaching you through the basics.
Yes.
We've got a...
So,
go ahead.
I was going to say, if we start at the sort of the pass level, is a gradual explanation of gameplay and controls revealed as you play. And definitely within this tutorial level, they do that. You get one bit at a time, and as you say, you are playing. The fact that it's fully separate level. I don't know how much
in this
it
case,
should necessarily affect that.
Ooh, possibly a slight bug there. Because I didn't press space to progress it, that's why.
Yeah.
So I would say, in this case, I think that's a point in its favour, because imagine, you were playing this game, you've just got your high score of 780 seconds or whatever, you start a new game, and then you'd have to go through this again. So I think it makes perfect sense to let, experienced players skip it, but for new players, they are still teaching you in the context of play. It's not like it's just info box, info box, info box, info box.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that point. I hadn't thought about that. So we've got the gradual explanations as you play. To get up to satisfactory would be an explanation of the gameplay and controls somewhat aligned with play.
Having said that, the last half of that tutorial, I can just spam space to skip through it. I don't actually have to show that I know how to use my shields or anything like that. And perhaps it would be nice if we, at the end of the tutorial, just jump straight into the game. There's no need to come back to the main menu first.
Or even at the end of the tutorial, if it gives you that same ending screen of, oh, you survived for this long, you blew up this many ships.
Oh, we've also got maybe a bit of a minor bug, because I've still got a tutorial prompt up that I can't get rid of. I'm going to have a fly around and see if I can see any black holes on this first stage. Because I think there is definitely an escalation of obstacles still. Because there don't seem to be black holes in these first few levels. Anyway, sorry, go on with what you were saying. Oh no, there's one.
So the question then is this tutorial aligned with play? Which is...
I think mostly it is. Because... they say, here are the movement controls, show that you can.
Yeah.
Here's the energy cell, go and pick it up. Now bring it back.
Yeah.
You are playing as you do these things. You are showing that you understand the controls as they're given to you.
Yeah. And so the asteroids don't appear until after you've deposited the first energy cell, right?
Correct. And in fact, I think in an early draft of this, they weren't in the tutorial at all. And I think that we'll get onto that when we talk about feedback.
Oh, you've only got 7 seconds.
Well, maybe we'll get rid of this tutorial message.
No, it won't.
It will if I... Ooh, there we go.
Hey.
But the thing is, what we don't have is it communicated through level design, because the levels seem to be all the same.
Yeah. So having it, so it's definitely aligned with play, but there's no level design in it, which puts them in good.
Which seems fair and reasonable.
Yeah, I personally have generally dislike tutorial levels, but I think there's a good justification for having one.
Well,
here.
we are specifically
the tutorial level is well done. Yeah, no, but I mean, I don't like having it separate to the rest of the game. But yeah, there's a good justification for it here. The ship energy level does appear to be negative at the moment.
Yeah, a graphical bug. Like, I like the fact that we can't run out of ship energy in the tutorial. In fact, maybe that's the reason that they don't jump straight into the game after the tutorial.
That would make sense.
But yeah, core dynamic. What would you say is the core dynamic of this game?
I mean, I would say it's survival.
I would too. What did they say it was?
Let's double check. This is Galactic Lifeline, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, they say it's survival.
Excellent.
Because the main goal is to keep the timer from hitting 0 while dodging obstacles. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we need to say much more on that. Like, all of the mechanic, the main mechanic of the time running out definitely fits the survival thing. The fact that we're scored on our total time survived really hammers that home as well. I think So, I mean, what we have here is a clear core dynamic supported by the primary mechanics. Absolutely, the primary mechanics of this game all support that. All support that dynamic. What we don't have is, again, that integrated set of mechanics to sort of draw it fully together.
I think even just showing, say, your total time alive or your total number of drones destroyed during gameplay, I think would improve that a lot.
Giving us more tools to survive, or more obstacles that we need to survive, and so on and so on.
Any of the things we've previously discussed, I never put it up to there. But it's that clear core dynamic supported by primary mechanics is that again solidly and good, which seems about right.
Brilliant. And last but by no means least is feedback. So
okay, let's have a look at how much. They gave so little feedback. That's wonderful. Sorry, one of the other games gave like 4 pages of feedback, which was
which is not what we are. So as part of this coursework, students were asked to hand in a short little report telling us about the feedback they'd gotten on their game and how they'd implemented changes as a result of that. So what did they say about that?
And this is a nice and short report. So the first one is they say that. Sorry, could you die, because I can't hear myself think over that game.
Alright, I tell you what, for this last portion I will just mute that so we can hear you reading that out. There was initially no asteroids in the tutorial level, and they were questioning about that, and so they adjusted it so that the players got some experience of how both the asteroids and the black holes behave before throwing them into the game. Okie doke. Yep, positive change.
They were also told that it wasn't clear whether the goal was to survive for as long as possible or destroy as few drones as possible. And they did that by keeping the timer for how long the ship has left, but removing account of how many drones have been destroyed until the very end. And so the only penalty for losing the drone is, losing time and energy cells, which, I think is a pretty good response.
Yeah, definitely.
Apparently, this might be why the music was so loud there. The background music gets louder when you get to 30 seconds left.
Ah, interesting. Okay, a nice attempt maybe at some, dynamic audio. I think rather than just making it louder, maybe they could have, shifted tracks to faded in like an alert noise or something like that to ramp up the tension a bit, rather than just making it real loud. Good.
They also did some playtesting, and as a result, this reduced the number of black holes that spawn and increased the minimum distance that they were allowed to have, presumably. And some slight modifications to the controls.
Okay.
So they've clearly done playtesting.
Always a good sign.
And the adjustments they've made, I think, are pretty good. So
yeah, so from the sounds of it, they were told, you're not showing the asteroids in the tutorial. So they went, okay, I'll stick some asteroids in the tutorial. They haven't maybe gone, above and beyond in their interpretation of that feedback to sort of incorporate it more fully into the tutorial, but they have included them into the tutorial, so the player at least has seen them before they start the game. So I think that probably puts them again solidly at a good.
Yeah, that's feedback's been addressed. Changes have been successful. I can't actually tell what excellent would be because on my screen the rest of that text is cut off.
So it would be the feedback has been interpreted and addressed, and the changes have been successful. So
that interpretation is the
key deciding.
It's not just taking that exact advice, but maybe adjusting it somewhat. So yeah, I again put some right in the middle of good.
All right, brilliant. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, and this is Lost My Marbles. All right, there we go. So I've lost all my marbles. Can you help me sort them? Okay, so we've got text in the top left that's ticking up and changing font in a slightly awkward way. at the same time that we've got stuff dropping down from the top of the screen that I assume we have to do something about. So a little bit of panic-inducing at the start. But
I didn't actually even get to read the first one. Oh, you moved the balls?
Yeah, so that was just instinct, I think, rather than instruction, because we've got green ball, green tube. So those text instructions fly by quite fast while we're also being asked to do other stuff. The other stuff at least looks, what's the word? Intuitive enough, like red ball, red box, green ball, green box.
Okay, there's also now 2 red boxes.
Are they different? Are they the same?
I don't know. Where's the green box
hang on, is that going to drop off the... So even though that was in the red slot, it sort of just... It missed the edge because these are square boxes.
Oh, one was about to fall off.
It's alright, I caught it. It's fine. Ooh.
Okay, so the perspective here is...
not great.
This might have worked better as a...
Perfectly topped out. Oh, there's a gold one. Is the gold one good? I assume the gold one is good.
What's the...
They're also quite... Oh.
I can't remember the name. It's not orthogonal. That's it. With a more orthogonal view. I think it looks like they've just had they put a text box in and not changed the size. Yeah. So Unity's automatically reducing the text size.
So the first set of marbles, I don't think we can click on and move. It's interesting that the second it does just say, yeah, now you try sorting them. It doesn't tell us how we should. But I was still able to work it out, so I guess I can't hold that against them. Like, I immediately went, okay, I'll try clicking on them and see what happens.
See, my instinct was that you would have to move the bucket. Oh, there's a purple bucket this time. I don't think I would have I don't think I would have tried touching the balls for quite a while.
So I mean, I have to say, I saw this in our Game Expo, which is why well, that seems unfair. So, hang on. So
wait, what do you do with the red balls now?
I guess we just have to keep chucking them back up here. So this is interesting, right? The first time we played this, we got two red ones. This feels like it's ramped up a lot faster than the previous one.
That's... Yes. Does it matter where the gold one goes?
I don't know.
Hopefully not. Okay, now the yellow one's gone, as the yellow balls are approaching.
Alright, in terms of...
Okay, how... Oh, you've got lives, so
yeah.
I didn't notice that.
We've also got 0 times 1, 2 times 1.2. I assume that's score. Maybe, like, so this is multiplier.
Maybe this is...
Why have we got 1.2?
That's... I think it might be the 1.2 is the...
It's the multiplier?
It's like a streak multiplier, but that is a weird...
so we've got 3 balls, and we've got 3 in a row, so it's 1.3.
If we throw one off the edge...
I don't think I'm going to have to throw it. I think that's just going to happen. I almost want to preserve my lives to see if we... to see what happens next. So we'll keep an eye on for that when I inevitably fail. Ooh, yeah, the perspective there is... Oh, cool, and there goes the red one. Just when all the red balls arrive. So it feels like...
It's not clear why the buckets are appearing when they are.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be pretty random. And sure, that makes it more challenging, but it does make it feel very inconsistent.
There you go.
39 so times 1.
That multiplier is going down.
Hang on, can I just balance like the marble on like the edge of here to stop them?
I don't know. What, on the little
on these
guide rails?
Exactly. Let's
maybe.
Just trying to base it purely on the shadow there. There we go. I'll just.
Yep. Hey.
Excellent. So we've got the pro strats now.
Can you stack the marbles there? Do you reckon? Very, very carefully.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
That's. So I think they could have improved this a little bit with, like making these more like funnels or making these extend a bit so that as long as it's in the right channel, you get the point.
Yeah.
Because having it sort of just roll off the edge, bounce off the rim, or just, if it's going too slowly, just drop in front of it, that does not feel great.
I also noticed
there we go. Hold left click to pick up a marble.
The
only
life
being told
icons. Okay. The life icons I've been there the whole time, but the one that fell off didn't affect, like it didn't remove a life. I don't know if they have explained how that system works.
Wait,
but
did one fall off in this run?
yeah, one of them. I think it's the same run.
One of them's gone now, so.
I'm pretty sure one fell off without.
It's already all blurred together for me.
Yeah.
So this time we've got 2 red buckets and a green bucket still. Ooh, now we've got a purple shiny one. What does the purple shiny one do?
Purple? Yeah.
That seems to be bonus as well.
Okay, so it doesn't seem to matter which. Wait, that went through the bucket.
It did seem to. Oh, that's.
It's. Okay. Looking at the errors, there's some kind of rigid body error there. So
that's fine. There's always some in the build, and it doesn't always affect things.
Yeah, it might be why that one went through the bucket though.
True. Oh, interesting. If I put it further back, it. Okay.
Of course, because
it does pop back. Pop back.
Yeah, it's probably because this would just be a tilted box, and so depending on how they've set up the controls for that, when you pick up the balls, it might just be at the height that they're at the moment. So if you pick that one up just before it goes off, oh no, it lifts it up a fixed amount.
Yeah, it's
interesting.
It seems to not go through it. Okay.
That's not really important.
If I pick it up here, is it lifted up by a different amount? You're right. This is very.
Can you push it off screen?
Can I push it off? If I put it up there and let go, what happens? Does it fall off the back of the?
Whoa.
Well, it's not coming back. That's for sure.
Well, it's gone. It hasn't reduced your multiplier though, so I assume it's just disappeared into the infinite void.
It does seem to have stopped the other marbles from coming though.
Yeah.
I may have.
I think we broke it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are. We do seem to be stuck in a loop. Let's try starting that again. And while I'm doing that, let's have a look at the mark scheme.
Yeah, okay, so we start with presentation. So this is the graphics, audio, and the information design. So as far as I can tell, there isn't any audio?
Yeah, there is audio. We've got some background music. We've got sort of typewriter noise as these are coming up. We get a smash and a crash as we lose a heart. So yeah, there's definitely some audio. And even a little ping when we get the marble finally in a bucket.
In terms of the sort of visual design, like what is that? Massive black bucket that appears to be taller than the others.
Yeah. I guess
and it's gone.
If it's colourless, can I put anything in there? Is that why it's bigger?
Maybe it's.
Do I lose? Oh, okay. I lose.
Maybe
putting the wrong one as well.
Hmm.
Gold one in the gold bucket, I guess.
So I think the graphics in this are pretty simplistic.
They are,
but also not. I would say they're not very consistent either. Like the buckets and the coloured balls and stuff, they all fit together. But then you've got this big floating textured rock that doesn't really seem to fit in with that, and the space background that doesn't.
I mean,
like especially when you go back to the menu,
it's a pretty abstract game. Overall, I think like most of the assets are consistent, right? We've like colored buckets, colored balls. They've done something about like the default text so that it's more pixely and chunky, and it maps up with the pixely chunky hearts they've got. Yeah, the difference between like the sort of marbly textured rock in space and just like the flat textured shoots is maybe.
But also then, as you say, you've got the sort of pixely text and the pixely hearts, where everything else is sort of blocky 3D or sort of textured 3D stuff. So then the UI elements I think don't add up with don't match up very well with the actual like game visuals.
I mean, I prefer it this way than them trying to make the text textured in 3D as well.
Well, that is true.
Okay, so I think it feels like we're
What
saying
color bucket is that?
the aesthetics, the presentation is workable, right? It's effective, but there's some inconsistencies. And I think this is not just like differences in texture, but it's things like some of the information design
shiny
as well.
black ball.
So magnetic marbles attract nearby marbles, make sure everything ends up in the right bin. But what is the right bin for a shiny marble? Is it this one?
It looks so. It made the right color. Also, why are we only getting taught it on this run? We haven't seen these before.
I think maybe because I hadn't gotten this far before. we got 39 points this time instead of just 30.
I would say also though, because there's not much going on in the screen, so I would argue that even if it was fairly consistent, there's not. It's pretty simple, just because there's very few visual elements. So I would personally put it more down at the pass level than satisfactory.
I think to me it's more satisfactory just because I still think it's workable, right? For the most part, everything makes sense. Like red balls, red tube, fine, it's a given. I guess in terms of I don't know whether this counts as controls or presentation, but the camera angle and the sort of being able to drop stuff feels a little wonky, and the differences between these special balls. So these ones are magnetic. Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, well.
That one accelerated a bit. I guess because they're both magnetic, they're both attracting each
If
other.
we just...
This is brilliant.
Oh,
I can keep them all there. Fantastic.
You've got to be careful not to disrupt it.
Pro strats. I can take... No. Uh-oh. They've gotten free. No, I want the red one. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Well, I guess we're done for this round. Wait, what? How is that only cost 1 life?
Maybe you've got some sort of iframes, effectively. Can I just leave them all? I'm just going to leave them all there. It's really difficult to pick up stuff attached to the magnet mass. See, if I try and pick up that red one, I definitely get the whole cluster. This is quite funny to watch. But yeah, as I was saying, the differences between the special... Like, what's the difference between a gold one and a purple one? And the purple one's still in this bucket. And, I mean, the magnet ones, I guess, at least, are pretty obvious just from watching their interaction. But, you know, why is it a glowing silver one different to a glowing gold one? So maybe there were some other ways of highlighting that. Not sure what I did wrong there. Was that the purple one falling through a...
Can you drop to the main menu? It's also then this. I mean, the font's the same, but like the visuals here are very different to the visuals in the actual game.
I would argue that the plasticky coloured spheres are pretty similar.
Maybe, but I'm still... I feel that with the very small number of like elements in the game that there is to work with, the fact that there is so much like the visuals of them vary that much is...
So effectively you're saying many inconsistencies and I'm saying some inconsistencies. So shall we agree to split the difference and put them in the middle of those two?
Sure. Which said whatever is that goes in this bit.
Okie doke. So next, meaningful play.
Okay, so so this is the mechanics, the controls, the bugs. I think we've identified, it seems, a few bugs. At least that you can yeet the marbles off the back of the screen and they just disappear.
Yeah, so that
whether or not you're massive magnets is a bug or
I feel like that's a feature, although being able to pick the marbles off the massive magnets was a little bit buggy. I think throwing stuff off the top of the screen is, that's me doing a silly rather than a bug. But the things like the purple ball falling into like one of these tubes and then falling out the bottom and costing me a life, a little bit of a bug.
And the fact that if you get them in the right sort of trench and they just don't go in the bucket,
So this is the thing.
Depends where you put this, but I would count that as it's not behaving as it should.
We've got another mechanic here. Let's just have a look.
What?
Crazy marbles move by themselves.
What?
So this blue one is just going for a wander.
Oh. Okay.
And ooh, that's unfair.
What?
So I picked it up and I was about to drop it in a bucket and it just launched itself that way, which
wild.
So again, I don't think it's a bug, but what I'm feeling here is it's a bit challenging to play because of some of the decisions they've made with their controls and their mechanics. The fact that, for example, we have no color, like no red things, so I'm having to constantly chuck these back to this way. Like, in a way, I can kind of get behind that kind of whole, like, plate spinning mechanic, right? Like, you're having to just constantly chuck them back so that you can...
we've
got a
so we
magnet.
We can make a clump of magnets to store things in. How would you say? What would you say about the controls? How nice are the controls to use? What is happening?
They're going for it. Mostly they're fine. There's okay. Heavy marbles are big and can easily push things around, but they're hard to move. Yeah, so I can't pick them up.
No. Oh no.
So this is why we had big tube, because big marble.
I see. The marble can't fit in the tube though.
It's alright. We still get credit for it. So I don't know if this is like a pacing issue or like a controls issue, but the fact that again, like we had a bunch of red marbles and nowhere to put them quite early on felt a little bit punishing. I think in terms of a mechanic, it's not necessarily a flaw because they're going for that sort of, like I say, plate spinning vibe of just constantly chuck them back up the top of the screen until they've got somewhere to put them. But, so, like, yeah, instinctively I'm saying, like, this a challenging game to play. I don't think I think it maybe is sort of up, like, it is playable though, we are playing it. Like, it's got a limited set of mechanics for the player to operate, although there are a number of different marbles. So there's the crazy marble, the magnetic marble, 2 different flavors of shiny marble, the big heavy marble. So there's a few different things at play. It's just the fact that we'll talk about this later, but the pacing and the way in which that they're revealed makes it hard to take some of those in and hard to sort of control some of those elements as the player.
I would say I mean, again, you're the one who's playing it, so you'd be able to tell most. But the controls seem a bit awkward, particularly again, I don't know how exactly which category we put this in, but the fact that you have that, you can line things up correctly and they'll still go out of the box. Like it's.
I mean, it
seems sort
partly
of
a mechanical
issue,
partly a bug. Just in and of like the way it's designed, I guess. So both the same category nowadays. So it feels like I think part way between a pass and a satisfactory for this. I think.
Yeah, I think I'd be satisfied, as it were, with that.
Okay, so
the next stage. So the goal, I think, is pretty clear.
Yes. What about risks and rewards?
I'm not really sure. The only thing I can think of that would potentially go in that is the use of the magnets to sort of stockpile things.
Like balancing marbles here, and I don't know if that's like an intended element of gameplay or if it's like there's not a lot of decision making that I'm making sort of moment to moment in this about should I go for this one or should I go for this one. It's more just a case of desperately fling marbles in a direction and hope things work out.
Yeah. I will say that it seems that it's every time we've seen the magnetic marbles come out. Well, there we go.
Well, I mean, that problem has
they
solved
end up
itself.
just stopped in a cluster, which.
So in terms, I shouldn't be
it's helpful.
dropping them off that close to the chute because they don't have enough momentum to get in. So I need to
Okay.
More crazy marble. Yeah, and it's just going to shoot. That feels somewhat punishing.
What's that?
The crazy marble. So if I pick up a crazy marble and let go, it just chucks itself in in a different direction. Okay, so goal very clear. Sort the marbles. Survive as long as possible.
Yeah, the risks and rewards, if there is any, which I'm not certain I would necessarily count. I could argue there are, but
slightly frantic ones in terms of, should I be going for the marbles that are most difficult? Should I be going for the marbles that will get me the most points? Should I deal with the ones that are closer to the buckets? Like, there's some amount of risk versus reward, but it's not hugely clear moment to moment.
So if we start there is definitely goals and some level of risk and reward. So if we go up from that, the next one is incoherent or very limited sets of goals, risks, and rewards, which I would be leaning towards. The one above that is a limited set of goals, risks, and rewards.
I think so. Here's the thing,
and I don't think they've. I feel like it's still a little bit sort of. It's quite limited, and to me it seems a little bit all over the place. It doesn't seem like there's any sense of coherency here.
If we look at it as goals and then risks and rewards, I think the goal is clear, the goal is coherent. There's not a variety in the goals, but the goal is put the marbles in the boxes. I think we can agree that bit is clear at least. But yeah, you're right. In terms of the risk versus rewards, they're fairly minimal, other than a few sort of frantic moments of chucking marbles around and maybe having to prioritize which ones you deal with first. So in terms of the goals, I would say they're probably up at a satisfactory even. Risks and rewards, they're probably closer to poor. So I think that averages out to probably around a pass.
Do you use lives for the next one as well?
60 that time. That's my high score as well, and I don't think I did anything particularly different. I would want to argue more that it's maybe below a pass, but not strongly enough to continue. I think I can happily say that it's there.
I mean, you're the one whose opinion actually counts.
I know, it's great. This isn't a democracy. Where are we? Pacing.
Pacing. So, the pacing is definitely not flat.
It's definitely not flat. It's definitely rising over time.
The question is there any coherent pattern in that?
I'm going to straight up say no, because of just the sheer variety in combinations of buckets and marbles we've seen. There's definitely not a coherent pattern of I feel like I'm doing well and therefore the game has got harder. It feels like mechanics and combinations of those mechanics are thrown at us a bit at random, and that very much determines how well we do rather than the other way around.
At the moment this is going pretty well. It's pretty easy, but it will arbitrarily say like, oh well, we'll give you a bunch of green balls, but there's nowhere to put them, so good luck. Which seems to be done entirely randomly, yeah.
It's difficult to know how intentional that is, because in terms of giving you a bunch of green marbles but taking away the green bucket, it certainly does. You're not it's not a guaranteed loss, right? You have mitigation for it. You just have to keep chucking the marbles up until a solution presents itself. But you're just treading water until that solution presents itself, and it's not under your control.
And there is a little bit of it seems like there is a little bit of planning in that, the more complicated marbles get added later on. Like you need to have survived a certain amount of time. But yeah, it other than that, it
So
seems like the difficulty is
So
whatever it happens to be at the time.
So here's a good example, actually. We're shown Big Bucket. We get tutorial message for Heavy Marbles. I haven't actually seen the Heavy Marble. Oh, there we go. So we get introduced to the bucket for it way before the actual marble itself. And because I'm too busy dealing with these green ones where I've got nowhere to put them, it's less impactful because I can't focus on that.
I didn't even register that there were extra tutorial messages appearing because of how many balls are moving around.
So we'll talk about that in a moment, don't you worry.
Yes. But yeah, I feel like we've got variations, but there doesn't seem to be any sort of coherency to
I got 390 points that time.
I guess you're getting better.
Yeah, but not that much
I suppose
better.
Also,
is it a case
it
of
might be
if I die with if I lose 2 of my lives at the start, that means I'm going to have a higher multiplier when I finally lose, right? Because if the multiplier
I don't know.
So if I lose 1 life and then get loads of points and then lose another life and then another life,
losing
and
a life
die,
resets them.
That massively so okay, maybe the balance on the scoring multiplier is a bit skew with.
I suppose. It might be that some of the types of balls are significantly weighted in terms of it's just stuff happens and sometimes it gets really difficult.
Yeah. Although I think we can probably say that it clearly rises over time, it's just not in a coherent pattern.
So maybe between those two?
Well, I mean, clearly rises over time is exactly what satisfactory says on the tin.
Oh, clearly. This is, yeah. So I guess if we've got a clear rise, but there's no currency, that would sort of average out to a pass.
Between a pass and a satisfactory, then.
That feels very heightened, but that's.
I mean, it's rising over time, and a pass is it rises over time, and a satisfactory is it clearly rises over time.
Yeah.
So at the very least, it's somewhere between those two.
Well, the thing is that the no coherent pattern over time is variations with no coherent pattern is in poor.
Interesting. Whereas a good is it rises over time in a coherent pattern.
Yeah. So that's.
I think like the
that's what
the thing that we're looking at here is that it is definitely it's continually going up as we play. The game gets more tense. It's not a case of it's flat or unclear in that sense.
I suppose. Okay, so
yeah, it feels to me like there's overall it is rising over time, but you're right in that there are some variations that seem less coherent. So I think ultimately we are somewhere between a pass and a satisfactory here.
Okay.
Tutorial wise, what do we think?
Yes. I think there's a lot of problems with this tutorial. For instance, like right here, we start with it, it begins to explain what's happening in the top left. We've already discussed the sort of visual aspect of this text, but while it's explaining how things work, the marbles are already moving. They're going. You're trying to read that while the game is progressing, which is.
And I'm pretty sure also at some point it does say, left click on the marbles to move them, but not until way after you already would have to know that.
Mm. And again, later on when the newer versions of the marbles appear, text appears to explain them.
But the text is
again,
all tucked away
by
in the
that
top.
point, yeah, and by that time you're so busy trying to keep track of things and sorting stuff that you don't really have time to stop and read. Which
and this sort of goes back
is
to
frustrating.
The variation and coherency that we were talking about before, because these things show up in any order. it's very easy to be sort of taken by surprise by a new mechanic. They're not necessarily introduced in the same order every time. Which, again, there's an argument for, doing that so that you see new and interesting things as you play, but it's also perhaps an indication that they didn't have an idea of which of these mechanics was the trickiest, or which one should we introduce first. So, for example, this time we've got the heavy balls, but no mechanic ball.
Oh, well, that went straight
unfair.
over the bucket.
But there's not necessarily that indication of, are the magnetic ones more challenging than the heavy ones, or what? So,
if we go to, if we start with pass arbitrarily, we have gradual explanation of gameplay and controls revealed as you play. So, technically, that is there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
It does that. But it's done in such a way that it's very difficult for the player to actually keep track of it. Which I think if you've got a tutorial that exists that fits these requirements, but is implemented in such a way that it's not actually useful to the player, I don't know if you have satisfied that.
On the other hand, a lot of the elements that they are teaching you are taught through play, right? Like, we learn about the magnetic things because we see them and engage with them as we play. So parts of their tutorial, and even arguably, although again this ties in with the pacing issues that we've already talked about, part of it is done through the level design, because in terms of this, the level design is purely done through what buckets are there and what marbles are there.
Do we have any understanding of how the different buckets arrive, what causes them to come and go?
And that's exactly what I was just about to say, right? Because they're seemingly at random, there's no control over what the player learns and when and how they learn it. So they've made an attempt to do all these things through play and through level design, but because they can, let's say they introduce a magnetic ball for the very first time, while you've got no red buckets and 17 red marbles that you're desperately trying to juggle, and you don't have the space or the capacity to learn that new thing. So although sort of almost like mechanically, they've got a few things that actually are done quite well in terms of tutorial, it's undermined by some of that sort of like balance and pacing, and wow, those magnetic balls really do affect the heavy ones quite strongly as well.
Yeah, and again, there's at least, I think the I might be mistaken, but the sort of shiny ones that don't have any special effects, oh, that was the wrong bucket, don't seem to have any explanation either. I'm assuming they give you bonus points, but I'm not sure if it actually says that. I also don't think it ever explains the sort of score multiplier at the bottom. Which, it's a minor thing, but there's...
I mean, not everything has to be spelled out through text. Some of these things we can learn through play, and eventually we worked out that, this is marbles and this is 1 point marbles, basically. But you're right, it's not hugely obvious, and it's partly because a lot of things are thrown at you very fast, and you're having to spin those plates, and you don't have time to sort of take in that new information as much. So,
I think, personally, I would move down from gradual explanation from that pass of explanation of gameplay and controls as you play. And because it's missing some bits and it's a little bit awkward in some places, I would move that down to the some explanation of gameplay and controls, which is down at poor.
I think it's better than that because of some of the other things they've tried to do, and I think it is definitely a gradual explanation of things as you play. The problem is it seems to be done differently every time because of that random element of their level design, unfortunately. So I think it's maybe between a poor and a pass.
Yeah, I won't argue with that. It's a very sort of unique
In fact,
situation.
I would even say that again because like they are trying to teach some things like through play as well, rather than just through the like it's not like they have just a tutorial message that tells us all of the different types of marble and then chucks us into the game, right? They are revealing these things through play, and although the order in which these things are revealed, they at least tie the tutorial contextually to those things. Or making it so we only get the tutorial message about the heavy marbles when we see a heavy marble for the first time. I think maybe they just could have put a bit more control on how and when they reveal those things. So I think there's enough elements of like they've put thought into some of these elements. And I think it probably hits at least a pass.
That I would be willing to argue about for quite a while. Again, I think. And for me, there's enough stuff that isn't explained, and yes, they are explaining things over time, but the sort of situation where it is like you get this text appearing while everything is going on, and there's no way you can take a chance to stop and read it because you'll immediately lose. I think should be enough to drag them down below a pass. I also don't think it ever actually explains the live system.
Well, again,
which seems quite important.
You don't have to explain every fundamental, marble fall off screen, you lose life is probably something that the player can assume. But all right, I will concede that although there is this gradual explanation of controls and it is revealed through play, it is not done effectively. So yeah, perhaps you're right. In retrospect, perhaps between a pour and a pass after all is more fitting.
Okay.
Okay, so
core dynamic is the next one.
It is indeed. So I've got a pretty strong idea of what the core dynamic is. What do they think the core dynamic is?
Let's see. Okay. Okay, they've got quite a long preamble before they say it, but they've said survival is the core dynamic.
Okay, that was my gut instinct.
Yeah,
the game is all about surviving for as long as possible, and they'd certainly throw in a bunch of obstacles to make that challenging. So in terms of the core dynamic is clear. We could guess what it was without having to refer just to their notes. The mechanics that they've got mostly all integrate with that. I mean, they have a relatively limited set of, again, sort of mechanics that the player has access to, which is they can stop the marbles falling off the edge, which is all that is required for survival. The thing that you're scored on directly correlates, or mostly correlates, to how long you've managed to survive.
And I think having that multiplier, I'm not sure when that multiplier is applied, whether it's when you lose or as you're putting the balls in. But I think having that multiplier is a sort of extra, not really incentive, but a sort of extra reward for doing well. I quite like. And again, also, it does actually emphasize having to keep getting everything in the right place, because as soon as you make a mistake, you lose that massive multiplier. So I think everything really sorts it, fits in well with that.
Okay, so
with that dynamic.
From that, it sounds like we're sort of at the good level, which is clear core dynamic supported by the primary mechanics.
Yeah, definitely.
I think, again, we're not necessarily at that integrated set of mechanics, because there's a limited amount that the player can do other than desperately throw marbles backwards.
Actually, the different types of marbles, I think, do
certainly add challenge. Make survival more difficult.
I would say that arguably this may not have been intended, but the magnetic ones sort of detract from that, because you can end up with just sort of fixed stack. You can, if you're struggling, you can just throw marbles into a magnetic clump that won't move. But I think, yeah, it's solidly in the good section.
Interestingly, if we were scored on time, not the number of marbles we'd sorted, it would really be detrimental to it that you could just create your magnetic marble mass at the top and just wait out the clock. But because they've tied the score to sorting the marbles, which is indirectly tied to how long you survive, it at least mitigates that a little bit. So yeah, I think we're solidly in the good for that. And okay, last but by no means least is feedback.
Okay, so let's see. Oh, we've broken it up by who provided them. So, feedback from you. So, they say that you suggested early on a shift from spatial reasoning to survival.
I think it was I would describe the game that they described to me as survival rather than saying, no, you should make this kind of game instead. But okay, sure.
Yes. They have said that they made adjustments to the gameplay to emphasize the survival elements. They haven't said what they did.
That makes it difficult for us to judge whether it was successful.
Yes, let's have a look at some of the other feedbacks. They had some feedback being said that someone said that the camera was too low angled and made it very hard to drop things in the bin. So they adjusted the camera angle to make it easier.
Okay.
I haven't played this before, so I don't know how much they've adjusted it. But
I was going to say, I didn't see the previous camera, but we've already commented on that it's still pretty tricky perspective-wise. So it might have been a positive change, but it certainly hasn't been fully successful in that case.
And we've got another one, which is someone else didn't notice the text providing the tutorial size. Providing the tutorial elements. So they increased the text size to improve readability, and they added some sound to help indicate what's going on.
Okay, and again, that sounds like it's probably had a positive impact, but given that it's something we've already been a little bit critical of, I think it definitely could have been improved a bit further. So again, possibly a positive change, but not as positive as they were hoping.
They also got feedback on that the bins were in a position where it was tricky to get marbles into the bin consistently, so they shortened the platforms to make it easier. But again,
we've already noted
still pretty hard to get there consistently.
So they've made some changes, but perhaps haven't tested the outcome of those changes as thoroughly as they could have.
They also received feedback about the magnetic marbles apparently being too strong and seeming like they break the game, and so they made the magnetic marbles weaker.
Interesting. Again, something we've already mentioned. It's very interesting how all of their feedback. So from the sounds of it, it's a lot of the things they've identified are stuff that we've already remarked upon, which makes me think that they have been changing the right things. They just haven't changed them enough.
So but I think if we look at the past, then that feedback was addressed, but the changes have had limited success. I think is where that would put them, because they've definitely addressed it, and so that they can't at a bare minimum they're at a pass. But I don't think that they've been. I don't think they've really been successful at all.
I think you might be right. Given that we've talked about all of those things that they mentioned as having addressed, and we've still found a few issues with them. I think it's good that they've addressed it, but they needed to maybe get somebody new to test it and confirm whether it had entirely resolved the issue. But as it is, they at least did a good job trying to address those things. They just need to tweak it just a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next game. And our last game for this batch is Get Rich Quick. That sounds like a good plan to me. So we have a nice tutorial screen, a nice title screen here. We do have tutorial and how to play. Let's hit how to play and get this one. Okay, doke. So that's a lot of text. Welcome to the Get Rich Quick tutorial. No, this is the Get Rich Quick how to play, not the tutorial. As a thief, your objective is to find and steal all 10 of the given items. You must remain undetected by both the homeowner and any security cameras. Once you have collected all the items, it's time to make your getaway through the front door. That doesn't really tell us how to play, but it does. It sets the scene. It gives us an idea.
Yeah.
So we got. I guess it does give us our goal at least. So we've got to steal 10 things.
I will. Sort of getting ahead a little bit. I will say the choices for the text, the coloring of it against the background. I don't know about you, but I find it a little bit difficult to read this against the background. I feel like they could have adjusted the either the coloring or something
the border
about the
they could
text.
have made a bit thicker, but I will say it's definitely a lot easier to read than if it was just white with no border. Okay,
yes.
Let's jump into the tutorial and see how we go. Now, I did test this before we started recording, and it did take a little while to load. There we go.
Okay.
Okie doke. WSD to walk.
So they're not, they don't explain which direction, but I think that's a common enough set of controls that.
Yeah, and even
just
if it wasn't, I think we could guess that W would be up and S would be down.
Yeah.
Okie doke.
Wait, are you sprinting?
I'm not sprinting yet. Hang on, wait. Ooh. Okay, so the camera controls are a little skewy. So walk, sprint, walk, sprint.
It doesn't seem to make any change.
So it doesn't seem to make a huge change, and we're not in a big enough environment necessarily to see it happening. It almost feels like, if you're going to teach us to walk, give us a corridor to walk down, rather than just a room to teach us all of the things in. Like, it would be easier to break that up. But okay, so F to turn flashlight on and off.
Oh.
Okie doke. So there's also maybe a questionable decision of having, 80% of the screen taken up by the main character. It does make it, I can foresee problems already in a game where we're going to have to be very aware of our surroundings with not necessarily being able to see much. Okay, E to open and close the door.
Not that one.
Not that door. The other door.
I guess.
Well, let's see. Maybe. Okay. Yeah. It is. So why include the other door? For continuity, I guess. How did we get into this room? But if you're going to tell us to just open a door, tell us which door as well. Okay. It's also interesting that the flashlight doesn't point at what we're looking at. We have to try and angle at... What on earth is that?
A hot dog and a sweater?
Yeah. Okay, go and borrow the valuables on the table by pressing E. So we have a phone and some orange juice. I assume we're going to take that.
I had assumed it was going to be high quality port, but
ka-ching, you've acquired both valuables. Make your escape to the front door without getting spotted. So is that the front door over there? So they're still really interested in their clock. Okay, so in a moment I'm going to be a bit critical about the consistency of their graphics. However, before I do that, I like that they've given it a face.
Yeah, I like that there is a vision code.
Yeah, so so in terms of the information design, that's very good. In terms of the consistency of the graphics we've got going on here, maybe room for improvement, let's say. Okay, so that's our tutorial. Let's jump into the game. So select your... Hey, we've got a difficulty select. That's kind of a nice bit of quality of life.
Let's go bank robber.
I was about
to say... We've seen what third person looks like.
No, I'm going to go on the easiest difficulty first, and we'll ramp it up.
Okay.
I agree. I think first person is actually going to be easier. Again, we've got a bit of a load time here. which is a bit surprising given the scale of the game that we asked them to create. Okay, so
It's because of your ancient computer.
So it could be things to borrow: briefcase, CR7 poster.
Oh, I didn't
gaming
even
console.
notice that.
Yeah. So our main objective is. Ooh,
we're meant to steal a grandfather clock.
Apparently. So they just walked right by us, and we're pointing a flashlight in that. So, okay. One thing at a time, but I'm surprised they didn't catch us. I'm also surprised they put a guard patrol to patrol immediately on our spawn point. And now that I think about it, why would I ever want to turn my flashlight off?
Excellent question.
Because as far as I can tell, the flashlight doesn't affect whether the guards can see us.
Oh, there's some bathroom.
Okay, so on the one hand, the level design is, a little bit boxy and somewhat inconsistent, and the textures are a little bit all over the place. But on the other, it's nice that they have actually designed, the rooms to be rooms rather than just go into this room, steal the stuff, go into this room, steal. There's a bathroom and a bedroom. That's kind of nice.
And there's always
I can't steal this though.
What is that?
It's the same phone from the tutorial, right? So this is the thing that we were taught to steal earlier. But
we don't have a phone on the list.
But it's not on our list. So we're a very particular thief. We can't take. So I guess they've added this as some means of replayability or whatnot, so that if you come back and play again, you'll have a different list of random items. But it feels a bit,
maybe,
let's say, out of character. Have we got a television on the list?
No. Yeah, obviously if in games like this, you're not going to get any sort of realistic houses, because realistic houses are not fun to play in. So it's nice that there's an attempt, but
what is this?
Is that a Minecraft cactus?
No, it's not. But it does resemble one. I assume this is just decoration. Can I steal this? No. Okey-doke. Another bedroom.
What is that?
So there's a messy poster. So before we booted up this game, we had to boot this up in Unity because we couldn't get the build working. And there were a bunch of interesting textures. There we go. Speaking of very interesting textures, and we got to steal this poster. So we don't want to steal the phone or the golden ring, but we have to steal this messy poster for some reason.
I can only assume it's signed, and that's very valuable for some reason.
Maybe that's it. Yeah. So okay, and we are ticking things. It's gone straight into our burglar trousers.
There's nothing wrong with a bit of hammer space.
And I assume that's just some money on the.
Don't steal the money.
I can't steal the money.
That's not really in the whole. It doesn't really fit with stealing. If you've just got a wad of cash, why would you take that?
So I'm maybe getting too hung up on details here, but the difference in items that we are being asked to steal is pretty dramatic. So we've got to take a poster, a gas can, there's a CR7 poster, a gaming console. There we go. There's a video game. Ooh, that took a few tries. A radio.
Oh, the radio. Not the guitar. That's not on the list. So
and some deodorant as well. Apparently.
Wait, deodorant?
Yeah, that's on the list.
Oh, but it's going to be in one of the bathrooms then, isn't it?
Ultimately, the actual item doesn't matter, but it does feel a bit weird in terms of setting.
Yeah.
Okay,
so while you're trying to find the deodorant, if we start looking at the presentation, so that's graphics, audio, and information design.
Okay, so
as far as audio goes, we've got footsteps and the ka-ching sound, right?
Yep. Both very good in terms of sound effects, but we are lacking that ambient background audio, and it feels that would be relatively key to have, to sort of build tension.
I don't think there's the guards / NPCs make any sound.
This one also seems to be stuck.
And
we've
that
okay,
oven
we've
is
got
pink.
a few missing textures as well.
Yeah.
We have to steal the microwaves though, and they are looking right at the microwave.
Well, what happens if let's just go for it?
I mean, this is
they
true.
walked past us earlier.
Ah, okay.
Oh, it's
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
Don't let that happen in real life, or you might end up in jail. Good life advice. We have learned something there. Not a lot of indication that we're in that thing's vision cone.
So if you look at the bottom left, there is a message from the console.
So in the debug console, there is that. However, if we're playing this, as the game and we're cropping that out.
Yeah. So clearly, the game has registered something happening. But
so let's go for first person as. So this.
This seems so much easier.
So much nicer and easier. And we've got a different list of things to steal this time. We still care about deodorant as much as we do the gaming console, but now at least we also want a big TV.
Did that door not open?
Didn't seem to. Ooh.
Oh no, you just did it.
Just bumped into. Oh, there's the gas can.
We'll steal the gas, but not the car. That's fine.
Oh no, I don't want the gas can this time.
Not this time. Okay. Do we want the toolbox?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know. Like, would highlighting around the objects that we need to steal? Maybe that should be one of the things on the difficulty mode. But
I feel like given how much stuff there is hanging about, that might be useful. Especially things as small as like deodorant would be quite hard to spot.
I am curious. Is the position of the items always the same? So definitely the items we need are different, but it looks like the items themselves are always in the same place. Ah.
Yes.
What did we get? We got the phone that time.
Oh, I think on the other side of the bed, the little gold thing. I think is meant to be a bracelet.
Aha.
We also have to steal a big TV. We've seen at least 2 TVs.
Yep, that's
so
it's not.
It's not the.
There's somewhere there is a bigger TV.
So I think going back to the presentation, these are both. This is sort of there's both difficulties with the information design. Like, it's not clear what we have to steal. It's also not clear when you've been spotted.
And
like,
I am very much walking.
You have not yet been spotted, according to the console.
Like, I don't know how long I have to stand in, and also their vision cone. Hang on, let me try and follow them around. So the vision cone for the security camera is pretty good. So that's because we're on the higher difficulty. But again, if we walk through it, no indication that we were spotted or how. So normally in stealth games, you have some kind of, the guards are on patrol. If they catch a glimpse of you, they go to like searching mode, and then when they've seen you for a certain amount of seconds, they go on to alert, and then engage or capture or just game over depending on the type of game. But it's always very, very clear what state the guard is in and how long you've got left to react to things like that. Whereas this...
Oh, that's the big TV.
Oh yeah, it's big. I can't actually tell if I need it when I'm looking at this wall because it blends right in.
Turn the light off,
because the light's not super helpful.
Yeah, and in terms of the actual sort of graphic design, it is all over the place.
It's very inconsistent, yeah. So obviously like our own character model combined with like some of the items in the house combined with the guards are
combined with this is our sausage person.
It's not a problem that it's a sausage person, but if the owner is a sausage person, we should be a sausage person. And honestly, like that kind of like, cutesy, like, oh, we wanted the toaster as well. The cutesy, like cartoony, like silliest, like I like that they drew a face on the sausage person, but it just feels so weird when we're like a tooled up, fully rigged 3D thief.
And also, like having this house with like seemingly bare concrete walls in every room is everything just feels a little bit off.
Yeah, okay, so Okay,
That is
so
a very small shower.
let's not harp on the. Maybe we're just really tall. Let's not harp on the graphics too much. The information design, I think, is more problematic because that's more fundamental to the actual gameplay, and the audio sort of ties into that because that would be an excellent way of signaling how much in danger we were, as well as some sort of ambient audio as well would be quite useful. Okay, so
I want the poster this time.
It feels like poor would be problematic presentation. So it's simplistic, or the elements are poorly chosen. To reach a pass, we'd accept flawed, so simple and with many inconsistent elements. I feel like, unfortunately for this, we may be closer to the poor just because of the different inconsistencies, the lack of ambient audio, the lack of audio as information design, and so on.
Yeah, I think especially the lack of, as you say, the information design on quite a lot of quite key aspects. It's a pretty serious problem. Also, where have we seen a laptop yet?
Oh.
Oh, okay.
There we go. So
perfect example.
Yeah. I'm also really surprised that they think first person is harder than third person, because sure, you've got less.
You can't look around corners.
Yeah, exactly.
But also with the third person, like, you can, if you were too near a wall, your vision would clip through it and you wouldn't be able to see anything.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I think, I think poor is it? Yeah, that's.
Oh, it is, but I don't want video.
Oh, right, you don't want.
Who keeps in the downstairs bathroom? Oh, and we were just stuck in a closet there. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's.
Interestingly, on the console, it didn't say that you've been spotted that time, which apparently the game doesn't know when you're going to be caught. Yeah. Okay. So we're going with poor for the presentation.
Yeah. Even so, like the difference between the kettle and the microwave.
Next, we've got a meaningful play. So that's the mechanics, the controls, and the bugs. So let's start off with, how do the controls feel?
When I was in first person, actually, pretty fine. Some of the hitboxes for interacting with the doors were a little bit hit and miss, and some of the items, like if you're not looking at the right spot, it took a few attempts. But other than that, actually, the controls are fine. It's a lot easier in first person than in third person, but
so
overall the controls are fine. Mechanically, what have we got? We have.
Well, you can steal things.
Yep, searching for the different items, like they randomize the. I still can't get over that texture. They randomize the.
Oh wait, is there a guitar in that room?
There was a guitar. They go around closing the doors.
He is so unobservant.
Yeah.
Except for when he spots you seemingly no reason. Anyway.
So yeah, they randomize a list of objects that we need to steal. They don't randomize the positions of those things, but doing both would probably be a bit what's the word? A bit excessively challenging.
Yeah.
I mean, we have these stealth elements. They're just hindered by the information design that we've already harped on about quite a bit. So
yeah, you've got the torch, which I think actually makes the game harder, but hey, it's an option.
Yes. Yep, I think you're probably.
And then there's that security camera, which acts differently to the homeowner / security guard wandering around.
And the fact that they have that as like an optional difficulty level, I think, is a nice touch.
Yeah.
There it is.
In terms of bugs,
in terms of things that we can sort of categorically call bugs, I don't think we've seen that many. I think there's maybe some poor design choices, like the camera placement and the information design of when we're in view or not.
I think the fact that you can stand directly in front of the person you're supposed to be hiding from and they don't react, I would probably count as a bug.
Yeah, you're probably right.
And that's quite a major one.
Yeah, the design is flawed enough that it undermines that mechanic, which are two sides of the same coin in that case, I think.
Yeah. So if we start pass or challenging, so there's few mechanics, awkward controls, and may have some serious bugs.
That does sound pretty descriptive of where we're at, unfortunately.
Yeah. So above that would be fewer mechanics, usable controls, and some minor bugs. But I think the bugs that exist are pretty vital.
Yeah, and if they're not bugs, then they are flaws with the mechanics themselves. Ultimately, unfortunately. Okay.
Below that would be insufficient mechanics, difficult controls, and critical bugs, which I don't think it's that bad.
No, it's a playing game. It's a playable game. It's just challenging to play. Like there is at its core there is a game here.
Yeah, so that puts them in a pass, right? That's what we said.
Yes.
Okay, so the next step is the goals, the risks, and the rewards.
Okay.
So very clear goals.
Yeah, steal stuff again. Sort of not necessarily coherent, right? Why are we stealing a gas can one time and not the PlayStation?
Why are we leaving cash on a table, and how are we and why do we want to cash?
Cash isn't on the list, so we're not going to even bother picking that up. However, the actual goal as we're given is clear. It is clear what we have to do. It just maybe doesn't necessarily make logical sense. Risk versus reward.
I mean, they've got different difficulty levels, which present different challenges, but I don't think that really counts. And to be honest, I don't see much in terms of risks versus rewards. It's gotten stuck on the door.
Yeah, going back to bugs, that is probably a bug.
Yeah, I hope so. So, like, what would have been nice, for instance, if you had this list of things to borrow, as they phrased it, but you could still steal other things. That would introduce this sort of a bit of a risk reward idea where you can sneak around more and try to find more things to steal, but you're more likely to get caught.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we don't have that. It's just, this is the list. Complete the list. You have no other options. It's not like there's a time element where we're restricted in how long we can be in the house. There doesn't really seem to be any additional choices you can make.
Yeah, so... Sorry, I'm distracted looking for this mirror.
I thought it would have been in one of the bathrooms, but apparently not. Oh, there's that other texture. There's
that other texture that we were wondering about. Yep.
That is an interesting picture to put in your living room.
It is, isn't it?
So I'm gonna start right at the bottom end of what not actually at the bottom end, because they have got a goal. But I think if we start poor,
yes,
we've got incoherent or very limited set of goals, risks, and rewards. I mean, logically, the list of things you're meant to steal is insane, but that's fine. You don't always have to have your goals make sense in universe, I suppose. But there are no risks or rewards, and the goals aren't very limited. It's to get these things. And I guess you could argue that the sort of random list where cash is less important than a toaster
is
a bit
incoherent.
It's a bit weird.
It's
so
Yeah,
Like, to get up to pass, you would need a limited set of goals, risks, and rewards, and it's just missing risk or reward.
Yeah, there's no, like... Yeah, the goal itself is clear, but it's somewhat incoherent, because although we know we need these things, well, at least the items are all in mostly logical places.
Oh, wait, the gaming console. You've just run past the gaming console.
Oh, yep, there it was.
So now we just need to find the mirror. This was so much easier in first person.
Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna take this really slow. I'm gonna follow the left-hand rule, and we're gonna see if we can find a mirror. But
yeah, I think it should be poor.
I think you're probably right. Maybe between a poor and a pass, because the goal, like, they give you a clear list of things to do. It's just not realised particularly, and I think that's
the mirror maybe higher up on the wall.
Maybe, like, I wonder if that's like partly a limitation of their overall, the way they've designed their levels and their mechanics, rather than like the goal at least being like the goal is.
Yeah. But again, go back to the. If you think about it, the goal is sort of incoherent. Like,
but
they could have had here. Yeah. But they could have had it make more sense, where it's okay, steal these valuable things, and then you also have the option to steal the toaster because, you know, why not? You're there.
Yeah, or even like you say, like have a time. Like you've got 30 seconds to get in, steal as much stuff as you can, get out. And if you want to push your luck, you'll try and get more stuff. And then it would have just been very, very clearly you're risking something for a reward. Ooh. Oh no! Don't you make me lose now. I'm hiding behind the door. You can't see me. Nope.
We think.
Well, I don't see a vision cone. He has got a spotlight.
Well, he is. Can you try to close the door, see what happens?
I'm worried he'll just clip through it and then I will lose.
He doesn't seem to be leaving. And he is looking right at you. Oh.
Hey, it worked. I am stuck
But we don't know if we can leave.
Why? I know I can't, because there he is.
No. Okay.
I might be able to just run straight by him. Okay, yeah. So I think... Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think ultimately it probably does come down under poor, unfortunately.
So the next one is pacing.
Pacing as well.
Okay, he has not even noticed you. Okay.
I charged through him. Yeah.
You've got the 3 difficulty levels, but again, that's you choose how hard it wants to be. I don't know if that would count as pacing.
Interesting. So within the game itself, like within the level that they have designed, the pacing remains exactly the same because there's only the one guard, and again, unfortunately their pathfinding is slightly buggy, so they tend to get stuck on things and just not really interact with you.
Yeah. I suppose if you treat the different difficulty settings as separate, like levels, as it were,
separate challenge modes or something like that.
Then there is some pacing, but it's. Where on earth is this mirror?
Left hand. Is it going to be something that I'm not recognizing as a mirror? This is sort of what I was talking about before with like the.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's try first person. Maybe we'll find it better. So we've got.
Just see if we can find the mirror, regardless if it's in the list.
I'm probably just gonna walk around and mash E on everything. Excuse me. So
prefab missing.
So absent would be like no pacing.
Pacing is
totally flat. I think purely by dint of them having those 3 different difficulty levels, and again, I don't think the difficulty is well balanced because we've already said because of the camera design, the hardest difficulty is actually quite a bit easier, other than the fact that it's got the security camera. But
Yeah.
the fact that there are the different difficulties with the security camera or without means that there is some attempt at pacing here.
So poor would be variations in tension, but no coherent pattern over time.
It feels like that's exactly where we are, because the
supposedly hard mode is probably the easiest.
Yeah, and it's also not linked to time, but which so like once we're halfway through a level, I mean, arguably there's some built-in tension that once you've got 9 items, you don't want to.
Is that the sound of you, or is that something else?
I don't know.
Is the guy stuck in a door somewhere?
I think they might be. Oh, let's just see if we can reset that. Like there's some inherent tension in once you've got 9 items, you are even more, incentivized to not lose than when you've just started and have 1. But I think that would be, perhaps stretching things a little bit.
Yeah. So sticking it on poor again, so there's variations, just not coherent ones.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
The good news is
okay, so that brings us to
these things are.
The core dynamic.
Okay.
What do we think the core dynamic is?
I am willing to bet I know what they have said, although I'm not sure. Well, there's a couple of things. Okay.
Talk us through your process.
So I am concerned that they're going to call it collection because we are collecting stuff. I think if I had to pick, I would say that it's chase and evade because we've got, stealth elements, we've got somebody pursuing us, we have to evade them to accomplish our objectives. So what have they said?
Let's have a look. Okay, so they've said the core dynamic is stealth. So that's not on the list that is provided in the sort of lecture slides.
It's not one of the canonical examples, let's say. That doesn't mean, it's wrong. So as long as they've justified what mechanics they think build to that and why that is an enjoyable dynamic.
And I think, you say chase and evade. I think stealth inherently implies, evasion. So that's it's. Let's have a look.
So okay, let's assume we're picking. We're saying stealth is effectively the dynamic they're going for. It's all about creeping around, like waiting for your moment.
Okay, so the excitement comes from having to move quietly, find hiding spots, and keep an ear out for the owner's footsteps or the flicker of their torch. The moving quietly and hearing the owner's footsteps. I don't know that we've had.
Well,
I don't think the owner has any footsteps.
I think they might. But the problem is, so we don't have a way of moving quietly. We have a way of sprinting or not sprinting. So
it might be that sprinting, not sprinting rather, counts as the moving quietly, but
it doesn't. But it doesn't make us move any quieter. That's the problem.
It says that if the owner spots you, you lose, which adds a level of challenge, which is true. But if they didn't do that, there would be no challenge.
Yep.
And you have to get back to the front door after you found everything.
Which doesn't strictly build like that's.
There is an exit to the level, which doesn't really necessarily.
Okay, so if we break this, so here's the thing. The mechanics that they have incorporated, the fact that there is somebody pursuing you, the fact that they have a vision cone, the fact that you have to navigate around them while completing your objective, there is an attempt to build towards a dynamic, and they have identified a dynamic that is like fun and enjoyable and would make up a core part of a game like this.
Yeah.
The problem that we're running into is because of bugs or perhaps some problems with the implementations of or design of their mechanics. They don't actually end up supporting it that well. So, for example, they talk about moving quietly, but there is no there's a sprint option, not a crouch option. The tools that they give us aren't about stealth. In fact, if anything, we're incentivized to run around as fast as possible and grab everything. So the intention.
To be fair,
is
the
there.
game is called Get Rich Quick, which.
So the intention is there, but the
arguably-
execution is a little bit flawed, I think. So I don't. So
Yeah.
a pull, for example, would be an attempt at a core dynamic, but the primary mechanics detract from that. I don't think we're there.
Yeah,
because-
I would say they don't detract from it, but I don't think it's well supported.
Yes. Which would put them at a pass.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I also want to make one small note in case I didn't make it earlier. The footstep sounds are really annoying.
And again, this sort of ties into what we were just saying, that you can't listen for the owner's footsteps because your own footsteps are too loud. I mean, I guess I could just stand still and listen for a bit.
Oh yeah, they do have footsteps. Huh.
And you can hear them opening and closing doors. Again, this is what I mean. That like some of the mechanics actually do lend themselves towards this, but because of the like slightly flawed information design and the fact that the mechanics they've given us to, like, it's not like there's a button to hide in a cupboard and wait for them to pass or anything like that. We're encouraged to sprint around as fast as possible because that's the tools that we've been given.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the feedback like? All right, nice and concise. Let me have a quick skim through this while you
let's see
continue
if I can actually
searching.
complete this one, yeah, because I know where all these items are. In theory.
Okay, so they've had one piece of feedback that they've listed, which was in the first lab session. They were focusing on designing the level and putting the different decorative elements and objects all around the house, and were advised to prioritize working on the core dynamics and developing the mechanics and making sure that they all work solidly before going straight into, designing the levels and adding decorations to them.
Okay, so what steps did they take as a result of that feedback?
So they said that then, they shifted. I'm gonna just quote a bit of it here. We shifted our attention to the foundational aspects of the game, ensuring that the stealth mechanics, player interactions, and overall gameplay experience were robust and engaging, which is a totally appropriate response. They don't appear to have done that, though. It's definitely not robust.
It's a pretty abstract, or let's say a high-level view of what they did as a result of that, but they haven't told us what they did to make it robust or anything like that.
There's
particularly
that's the sort of general overview. It's all there's a very high-level description of how they changed their development strategy to focus on making the mechanics work, which, given they didn't.
That's maybe we don't know what steps they took to include. So perhaps the inclusion of the security camera.
Part of the issue they haven't said what steps
exactly.
They did, so
that's the issue with this. Unfortunately,
what happens if you try to leave with an incompleted list?
You can't. So you get a debug message saying keep looking. It's going back to the balance, the security camera is a really nice touch, but again, because of the mechanics, it doesn't actually change the difficulty because they've given us a sprint button, and it just means we have to just not stand.
Okay, so with the feedback, They have reported what the feedback is, so that's they've got that. If we go to poor, what we have is that the feedback was not addressed well, although some other positive changes have been made. And again, because they've not given any clear examples of what they did in response to feedback, it's very hard to judge. But based on just the fact they said we focused on less on decorating the house and more on getting the mechanics working, and the house has got a lot of stuff in it and none of the mechanics work, I think they definitely have not addressed the feedback well.
Unfortunately, I think you're right. It feels like they probably could have started off with a slightly smaller environment just to sort of test and pinpoint some of those mechanics.
What are you missing? A lamp.
Yeah.
Which lamp?
Yeah.
I think that's in the living room.
Is it in the living room? Alright, let's go have a look.
Maybe?
Oh, or is it
No,
this?
there it is.
There we go, we've got everything.
Oh.
Congratulations, you have successfully stolen all the items and made your escape. Now you have the necessary skills to get rich in real life. This is not advice. Please don't do this. Okay, yeah. So I think you're right. I think they got the feedback. They knew what they had to do. They don't seem to have implemented it in a way that's been successful, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I think yeah, it feels like, again, unfortunately, it's probably going to hit a poor. It feels like they probably have made some changes, but not ones based on the feedback, or not ones that successfully address the feedback. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this game and the end of this video. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you all again soon.